It's a lot. Hi friends, I'm so excited you're here today because I'll be talking about all of my favorite books I read in 2024. Let's be real, all my favorite horror books, right? I had an awesome reading year. I read 250 books. It's ridiculous. My goal is much lower this year, but I had so many books that I absolutely loved, and with each of these books I have a special connection to the story, to the characters. Just know that that each book is very different, but I took away probably the same stuff from it, but also, you know, something different. Some of these books made me cry, which you saw on camera. Some of these books made me disgusted, which is so good. And some of them made me laugh so hard. Some were very disturbing, which I loved. And yeah, I just had a fantastic year. So these are a lot of books. I don't even have a count. I haven't even counted. These are just my physical books here I'm going to talk about, but then I have audio and ebooks as well. So let's just get into it. So I'm just going to do a rapid fire situation because it is a ton. So yeah, these are all my 5-star books that I absolutely loved, and when I was reflecting back on them, I was like, you know what? I still love that book. I will always recommend that book. That's why I put it in my 2025 reading journal, just so I have it all here for recommendation videos. But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting with A Haunting in the Arctic by C.J. Cook. I read this as an ARC. I think this was a new reading vlog, reading new horror, my first vlog of the year, I believe. And it is a very haunting story, and very spooky and weird, and I loved the ending, and it was just fantastic. And then The Overnight Guest, which was a thriller, and I honestly did not know where this one was going to go, and I loved where it went. Girls Night Out by Wendy Dalrymple. I had so much fun with this one. It is just a fun girly read. I always have a fun time with a Wendy Dalrymple. Ein Hollow by Tim Meyer. This is a Frankenstein retelling inspired story. It's very cold and wintry and beautiful. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I believe this was a new his new book this year, and it's a crime thriller that takes place outside of Richmond, Virginia, so already I'm biased, but I absolutely loved it. It's super, super dark, gritty crime thriller. Bluebeard's Castle by Anna Biller. I will say, if you go into this, you have to watch The Love Witch first. This writer-director of The Love Witch, this is very much her sense of humor and her style. And yeah, definitely watch Love Witch before reading this. Hot Pink Satanism. This is bizarro horror, and it just made me laugh so much. It was so funny, and all the pop culture references was absolutely hilarious in it, and I just had a blast with it. The Devil in Silver by Victor Laval. If you know, you know. This is one of the books that made me absolutely cry for like 2 days straight. So good, so good. 5 stars, a million stars, a million stars. I'll take this story with me. I don't want to be so dark and say to my grave, but definitely every day of my life. This lives in my heart. And then a thriller by Darcy Coates called Hunted. I was not expecting to absolutely love this book, only because of the ending. The ending was so surprising, and there's another Darcy Coates book on my list as well this year that I gave 5 stars. I was just not expecting the ending, because I feel like her books I've read so far, her supernatural books, are they're more cozy and like, I don't know, they just kind of follow a certain pattern. This one did not, and it is such a fun thriller. Natural Beauty. I had a lot of fun with this one. There was a couple of beauty books that came out this year. I think one of my books almost fell. I also liked Rouge by Mona Wad. I don't think I read that one this year though. Was that the previous year? But this one gave me those vibes, but it was more funny, and it had that satire in it. But yeah, it was great. And then Frozen Charlotte by Alex Bell. This is the the prequel to Charlotte Says. This is Creepy Doll, a YA horror. Very cold, very creepy, and I had so much fun with this one. I was like, it is definitely a 5-star. The Old Lady by Christopher Triana. I had a blast with this one. It's extreme horror, but it's so good. It's such a good story, and yeah, it's amazing. Going back to the past, Damnation Game by Clive Barker. This is Clive Barker at his, I don't want to say zaniest, because I don't think it's necessarily zany. It is just so weird. It is very, very bizarre. We're following a gambling addict who gets a security job for an eccentric millionaire elderly guy, and some crazy stuff starts happening, like crazy stuff. I had a lot of fun with this one, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the main character, but I still was addicted to the story. Sister Maiden Monster. I absolutely loved this one this year. It was super fast paced and weird, and doesn't hold back, and I loved it. The finale to the Indian Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones, The Angel of Indian Lake. I am surprised I read this one this year when it came out, because I am so bad about finishing series, because I never want to say goodbye to the main characters. Did I tear up saying goodbye to Jane? I did. It was so good though, and I absolutely loved it. Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I had so much fun with this one. I got an arc of it, but I hear the, so I read an ebook, but I hear the audio for it is super fun. So I definitely want to check that one out. I might reread it. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was so good. Skin by Kathy Koja. I am a Kathy Koja fan. You guys know I love the cipher. I also really loved this story. This story is about artists who go to some lengths. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of it here, because it's wild. It's wild, but it has that same theme of the cipher of what inspires artists. What is the muse? I'm like our muse, like I'm an artist. What is the muse, and what will you do to keep creating? I love those stories. Last Days by Brian Evanson. I read this for my cult reading vlog I did this year, and I loved the story. It's short, not sweet at all. It's brutal. It asks really interesting questions about cults in general, especially religious-based cults. I guess they're all religious-based cults. I don't know. But yeah, it's graphic. So in that vlog, I read Devil's Creek by Todd Kelsling. This one is pretty epic, but I do suggest getting the physical book of it, because it is done so well. A lot of thought went into the formatting of it, and also I think the audio is free on Audible with a membership. When I listened to it, I don't know if it still is, but I absolutely love this one. Major content warning for child abuse right at the beginning of this, right from page 1, so just a heads up if you're sensitive to that. But it's so dark and so cosmic horror, small town horror. This is like Stephen King on like LSD. I want to say, like, he really goes there with certain scenes and how widespread it gets and how graphic and gross. I loved it. So good. And then Cuckoo by Gretchen Flecker Martin. I thought this book was very, very weird and disgusting and sweet and hopeful at the end, actually having a hopeful ending. What? 5 stars. Amazing. And then another Stephen Graham Jones book, I Was a Teenage Slasher. I loved this book. And it's so funny because he had to write this book before he wrote the ending for Jade, the Angel of Indian Lake. He had this in him before he could finish Jade's story. He had to get this one out, and I just think that's so interesting because it is a slasher story still, but it's told from a point of view of a slasher, and not to get violent nature of it at all. This was actually good. The Perfect Victim by David Sodergren, I loved. You guys know I loved every single book I'm going to talk about. I love this book because a girl kicks ass in it. Let's just say that. And of course there's peen destruction. The other Darcy Coates book I really liked was Where He Can't Find You. I honestly thought this was going to be a different story. This is a full-on monster story. It is so good. It's so good. It has lore. You're rooting for these kids, and I was really connected to the characters, and I loved the town, and I loved the setup. I will say in this, I think when I talked about it this year, I believe this author is Australian, and to not have any of the characters really have guns in New Jersey. I think this takes place in New Jersey town. I was just like, we all have, they're everywhere. Everybody has many. That was my only thing. I was just like, where are the guns? But yeah, I really liked it. There's some legit creepy scenes in this. Horror movie by Paul Tremblay. I had such an experience reading this one. So I didn't have the physical copy. I know there was stuff in the physical book that he likes to do. What Paul Tremblay does in this is kind of what he does in a lot of his more recent books, is make you question the POVs you're seeing. And this is done more like found footage-y. This is like a cursed film monster story. It's very 90s, and yeah, I really like the detail to the audiobook, and the physical book. I did go through it. It's just so unique. I feel like you don't get unique books like this, and this is one of his very less less ambiguous endings. Amazing. And then you guys know I was going to talk about Brainworms by Alison Rumsfeld. I had to sing it. I had a blast with this book. It's absolutely disgusting, gross, vile, hilarious. Read it. Just read it, you know? Wet Bones by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson? What? John Shirley? Could you imagine if Shirley Jackson wrote this story? Oh my gosh. So this is a splatterpunk paperback from hell book about addiction, and it gets so weird and it's vile, and I loved the story. It's a very compelling story too, and it's very disturbing, and I loved it. Another David Sodergren book, Rotten Tammy. This book had it all for me. It had creepy children's show, slasher, mystery, weird stuff happening, a relatable, funny character, main character that you're rooting for, and also pain distraction. Yes. Here Lies a Vengeful Bitch by Cody Crowley. This is a YA book that I had so much fun with this year. I think I'm going to get the physical copy just because the cover is so good. It's so good. But yeah, I absolutely love this book. It's super fun, and it's a very quick read. Burnt Offerings by Robert Marisco. This is a paperback from hell that kind of blew me away. I was not expecting a book written in like 71 to be so nuanced and tell a story about a family in a haunted house, yes, but to have such a unique perspective and to have such internal dialogue that is actually really complex and interesting to the characters. It was so interesting, actually, because it talks about family dynamics in the 70s, and I think that time there was like this other thing going on, right? Like feminism was happening, and it was just like a really interesting take on it. I think it being a male author too, I was just expecting the absolute worst, I'm not gonna lie. And it was actually, yeah, very nuanced and interesting and scary at the same time. And I absolutely love the ending of this. It's so good. Also, the movie adaptation is fantastic. It's a bit of a slow burn. The book is a slow burn too, but the acting in the movie, amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend the book and the movie. They are both worth a read and a watch. Also, Rot by Danger Slater. This was my book club pick, my last book club pick of the year, and it actually, I think I gave it like a high 4 when I read it, and then us discussing it, I was like, okay, like, this is a lot. There's a lot more going on in this novella than I thought there was. There is also disgusting body horror, which you know is always going to lead to a high rating for me, personally. American Rapture by C.J. Lead. You guys know I love this one so much. I think about this book every time I listen to American Teenager by Ethel Cain, and it kind of makes me tear up a little. And if you did not see my Spotify Wrapped, I listen to that song a lot. Actually, I don't think I posted that because of how many times I listen to American Teenager is ridiculous. But anyways, I absolutely love this book. It goes there, though. It is very, very disturbing on a lot of different levels. There is animal cruelty in this, but it is not done lightly at all. This is a very grief-heavy book. It's about religious trauma, cults, pandemics, growing up. It's a lot. But it's so good. It's so good, and I have goosebumps thinking about this book and just how cool it is that we live in a time where stuff like this can be written, because this spoke to me on a lot of different levels, and I think it will speak to a ton of people and make that connection, and I think that's so beautiful. Model Home by River Solomon. Such a unique haunted house story, told through the lens of horrific stuff. Like, the reveal in this is absolutely horrifying, and it's told very uniquely, but I loved it, even though some points I was like, because it switches POVs throughout, it's kind of jarring, but I really liked that unique writing style. River Solomon has a very unique lyrical type of writing style, and I absolutely loved it, and I think everybody should read it, and I'm singing it now. Sacrifices by Maria Fernando Amarillo. I'm probably mispronouncing this. This is a translated work of short stories. I did not know this was short stories when I read it, but it is set up very uniquely. I love the way it was set up, because they're all connected, and they're all about being a woman, and it is fucking terrifying. It is vile and disgusting and scary as hell. These stories, I was listening to it, I think like crocheting before bed or something one night, and I was just like, oh my god, oh my god. There is a Lorena Bobbitt story in here that is written so beautifully, so beautiful, and so heartbreaking. It was amazing. I was there, you guys. Okay, Candy Cane Kills again by Brian McCauley. Such a fun Christmas slasher. Literally, these books the past 2 years have gotten me into the Christmas spirit. It's so fun. I was like, let's just say that, but it's amazing. And then Schrader's Chord by Scout's Lead. This is a haunted object, curse object record, and this was so wholesome and sweet about found family and loving music. The bands in this are my bands, okay? I was just like, yes, it is good music. It is. I felt validated. 5 stars. And there you have it. Kind of a rapid fire of my favorite books I read this year, and not this year, no, last year, 2024. Let me know what were some of your favorite horror books that you ended up reading in 2024 or recently, because I know we are well into 2025 and it is letting us know. But anyways, let me know in the comments down below how's it going, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye!